raising the flag on Iwo Jima 1945. 6 Marines raised the American flag atop Mount Suribachi. The image became a symbol of hope in one of the bloodiest Pacific battles. Stalingrad street fighting 1942. Soviet soldiers fought house to house against relentless German attacks. Civilians lived and died in the ruins of their own city. Siege of Leningrad 1944. For 872 days, the city starved under Nazi blockade. Over 1 million lives were lost, yet Leningrad never surrendered. Battle of Midway aircraft carriers 1942. 4 Japanese carriers were sunk in just 3 days. Midway turned the tide of war in the Pacific. Battle of the Bulge Soldiers in Foxholes 1944. In the frozen forests of Belgium, American troops endured the last desperate German offensive. Many were teenagers facing snow and fire. Kamikaze pilots preparing for missions 1945. These young men wrote farewell letters before flying to certain death. For Japan, sacrifice was seen as honor. German panzer tanks advancing 1940s. The panzer divisions rolled across Europe with terrifying speed. Blitzkrieg changed how wars were fought. Ruins of Dresden 1945. A city of culture turned into ash overnight. Tens of thousands perished in the firebombing. Warsaw Ghetto Uprising 1943. With almost no weapons, Jewish fighters rose against the Nazis. Their resistance became a symbol of courage against impossible odds. Oradour-sur-Glane massacre aftermath 1944. An entire French village was wiped out in one day. The ruins still stand, a silent witness to horror. Holocaust victims' shoes 1945. Each pair of shoes belonged to a life stolen in the Holocaust. The silence of absence speaks louder than words. Liberation of concentration camps 1945. When Allied soldiers opened the gates, they saw suffering beyond imagination. Many survivors were too weak to walk to freedom. Civilians fleeing bombing raids 1940 seconds. Families carried what little they had, searching for safety as bombs fell from the sky. Children in London wearing gas masks 1940. Even childhood was reshaped by war. Playgrounds filled with children hidden behind rubber masks. Japanese-American internment camps 1942. Over 120,000 people, most US citizens, were forced into camps. Fear turned neighbors into prisoners of their own country. Yalta Conference Stalin, Churchill, Roosevelt 1945. 3 men sat at Yalta to decide the fate of nations. Their handshake carved the map of the post-war world. Mussolini and Hitler meeting 1940 seconds. 2 dictators posed for the cameras, promising 1,000 years of power. Within a few years, both were gone. Chamberlain with Peace for Our Time 1938. Holding a paper he believed meant peace, Chamberlain returned from Munich. Within a year, Europe was at war. Churchill giving V for Victory 1940 seconds. With a cigar in hand, Churchill raised 2 fingers. A small gesture that gave hope to millions under fire. Eisenhower talking to paratroopers before D-Day 1944. The general walked among his men, some only 18 years old. Many would never return from the skies over Normandy. MacArthur returning to the Philippines 1944. After years of exile, General MacArthur stepped ashore, declaring, "I have returned." Mussolini executed in Italy 1945. Dragged through the streets, Mussolini's fall was as brutal as his rule. The crowd spat on the man who once demanded worship. Emperor Hirohito of Japan. The godlike emperor of Japan was rarely seen in public. After defeat, he spoke to his people with a human voice for the first time. Hitler addressing Nuremberg Rally 1930 seconds. Thousands raised their arms in blind obedience. A single voice turned a nation toward destruction. Soviet women snipers 1940 seconds. These young women became deadly sharpshooters. Some recorded hundreds of kills, rewriting ideas of who could fight. V-2 rocket launch 1944. The world's first long-range missile rose into the sky. A Nazi weapon that became the foundation of space travel. Sherman tanks in France 1944. American crews rode their iron coffins through hedgerows. Inside, the heat, fear, and courage were unbearable. German Tiger tanks 1940 seconds. The Tigers were nearly invincible on the battlefield. Only sheer numbers and air power brought them down. Enola Gay B-29 bomber 1945. The plane sat quietly before takeoff, its crew unaware they were about to change the world forever. American Navy ships of Pacific battles 1940 seconds. Carrier decks swarmed with planes. At sea, floating cities clashed in battles stretching over hundreds of miles. Codebreakers at Bletchley Park 1940 seconds. while bombs fell outside. Quiet minds cracked Nazi codes inside. Their hidden work saved millions of lives. Radar operators monitoring skies 1,940 seconds. With green blips on dark screens, radar operators warned of incoming attacks. A new technology that gave defenders precious minutes. Flamethrowers in battle 1,940 seconds. Flames roared through bunkers and caves. Few weapons inspired as much fear as fire unleashed by man. Paratroopers jumping into Normandy 1944. Thousands leapt into the night sky, scattered by winds and gunfire. Many landed alone, fighting until dawn. Warplanes flying over Europe 1,940 seconds. Shadows filled the skies. To those below, the drone of engines meant death or deliverance. Germany's formal surrender Reims, 1945. In a small schoolhouse, German officers signed their surrender. After 6 years, Europe's war was over. Japan's surrender in Tokyo Bay 1945. Aboard the USS Missouri, Japan laid down its arms. The world finally stepped out of darkness. The E-Day celebrations in London 1945. Crowds danced in Trafalgar Square. After years of blackout and bombs, London saw light again. Times Square Kiss VJ Day 1945. In a moment of joy, a sailor kissed a stranger. One photograph came to define the end of war. Bombed out Berlin 1945. The Reich's capital lay in ruins. A shattered city mirrored a shattered dream. Nuremberg War Crimes Trials 1945 to 1946. In the docks at the architects of genocide. For the first time, leaders were held accountable before the world. Hiroshima Aftermath City in ruins 1945. Buildings turned to rubble. Shadows burned into stone. Hiroshima stood as a warning carved by fire. Refugees returning home in Europe 1945. Families walked along broken roads with all they had left. Home was rubble, but it was still home. Displaced children after the war 1,940 seconds. Millions of children grew up without parents, homes, or even names. Their childhoods were another casualty of war. Soldiers returning home 1945. Trains pulled in. Doors opened and tears flowed. After years apart, families were whole again.